All right. Let's go. How's it going, Dragon Brood? So, we're getting started here. It looks like Wizards isn't quite ready. They're not going live for about another 5 minutes. So, we're going to give everybody a chance to slowly kind of gather, if you will.
When we agreed to be roommates, we
Oh,
said
no.
no role.
Don't need that audio in the background. But yeah, should be all set to go here in just a second. And this is good. So, not not upset at all about today's announcements that we got. I thought it was actually really good. So hopefully this keeps up the good vibes. I'm not sure what we're expecting to see today though. What we really want. I think out of this announcement, I'm trying to think like what would really like. Obviously, we'd like to hear like, hey, what are the odds of Grand Prix like events coming back? I mean, I think that's a big deal. Granted, some of that's, hazy crystal ball because of COVID or whatever. So, like, that's going to be one thing. I think also, like, how many events, as far as like how many stores in a region may actually host qualifiers. I think that would be another good question. Trying to think like other things that might come up in this that we would want to know. But I feel like the announcement this morning was pretty solid, like for the most part. But I guess the big one, honestly, the biggest thing that they could maybe answer for us would be what is the expectation for coverage? Because I think that's the biggest thing. I think a lot of people would love to have coverage of these events, whether that be the regional groups doing it or Wizards doing it, whoever. I don't think anybody really cares as long as they got to see people competing on camera playing competitive Magic. I think that's what want to make sure we see more of. But we'll see. I don't know what this announcement is supposed to cover since the written announcement was pretty good. We got who's that? Pascal says, "Yo, started watching you after I saw your mono blue tempo deck. Didn't know you went live. I do. I'm live on 3 different platforms, not at the same time, but I do YouTube live, I do Facebook gaming, and I do Twitch. So, yeah, if you follow any of my socials, I usually try to let everybody know whenever I'm going live. And I am the Discord, and people get notifications. So yeah, I do a great many things in a lot of different forms. As a matter of fact, I was talking with some people at DreamHack today because I started talking with them back in November. And now that this announcement came out, it's like, oh, well, y'all were doing stuff for Wizards. Great. So hopefully I'll get to be involved with them somewhere along the line for some upcoming events and stuff. I don't know yet if they're going to do coverage or if they just want stuff featured on the channel or whatever, but I would love to be involved with some of this new stuff that's coming. Looks like people are slowly getting into the chat. As soon as Wizards is ready to go, I will flip screens and make sure that we are ready to go to have our discussion with the live things. But lots of people are coming in here pretty quick. They just switched over. They went from like 100 to 300 to 430. I'm sure when it updates again, it's probably going to be 600 or 700. So people are coming in by the chunk right now. So Wizards might just be waiting to build up their viewing audience as well. So as soon as they're ready, I'll make sure y'all don't miss a thing. But yeah, I think those are going to be the biggest things for me. It's just, will there be any announcement or expectation of coverage? Will we? Yeah, they're already up to like 800 people strolling in there. And roughly how many qualifiers do they expect per, or how many local stores per area? Like, are they expecting to qualify people? Because I think those are the things that most people are probably going to want to know. But otherwise, I think they laid it out very well as far as like how many people are going to qualify for the Pro Tour, how do you stay on the Pro Tour, all that stuff I think was covered pretty well. And the prize money was also pretty big. I mean, 500,000 per Pro Tour along with $1 million for the World Championships. I think those are all great. So like no complaints. Hey, new subscribers. Thank you so much there, Dan. Much appreciated. So yeah. The last few days, by the way, lots of y'all have been around watching the videos, sharing stuff. So I want to say I thank you so much for that. I super appreciate it. I've seen lots of activity on my channel over the last like 72 hours or so. And that means a lot. Like I've been putting in a lot of time the last few days. So it's really, really cool to see that coming through. But yeah, we're kind of just waiting. Wizards isn't starting yet. I don't know what's going on. I will say this though, when we were talking about this a couple months ago, not a couple months, yeah, about a month ago actually on stream. One of the things I was telling people is that I expected this announcement. Okay, here we go. They just flopped over right into a conversation. All right, hold on. We'll get that fired up and get y'all started. Jeez, Wizards, no warning. Thanks for that. All right, here we go.
This morning, William Jensen is joining me, and you might know him from winning the World Championship, being a Hall of Famer, all of those things. But he's taken on a new role recently as the Director of Play Programs, which means he is going to take us through the announcement today, answer some of your questions, and generally just talk about all the awesome stuff that his team's been working on. So before we get to that, I do have to do the news. And the news this week is real quick. We have another astrology drop coming up for Secret Layer. This is Aries, and you'll see this lovely mountain for the Aries drop. The Aries drop is going on sale.
I will tell you, having worked with Huey, Huey's a really sharp guy, so it's cool to have him in that position.
Several bundles. So the Aries foil bundle, where you get a bunch of lands for $159.99. The Aries non-foil bundle for $119.99. And then, of course, the individual drop.
Secret Layer. I buy a few Secret Layers here and there, but I probably, unless it really speaks to me, I'll probably never buy a Secret Layer basic land because they're just so expensive for basic lands. But down the road, they'll probably be worth a lot, to be honest.
Probably because we've been.
They'll probably be worth something, but I'm not really in it on basics for the long game.
So, Billy, let's start. First of all, you're Director of Play Programs. What does that title mean?
So it's a lot. I mean, I admit the first couple months I spent a lot of time on what we're going to talk about today, the Premier Play system. But I'm hoping to have a positive impact on all our play programs, from FNM, Commander Parties, Store Champs, the Premier Play system, and so on. I've spent a lot of my first couple months here getting to know the team and the building and the people. And I guess I just want to take a moment before we start to really shout out the amazing team we have here. I've gotten a lot of credit on social media today. And the fact of the matter is, like, when I got here, this was well in the works. And the people who are here are amazing people who are extremely talented. And we're doing and continue to do an amazing job. So please make sure that they also get their due credit.
I figured as much too. When people are trying to be like, Huey saved Magic in 2022, like
some of them. So
some of these things would literally have to take months to resolve.
We're answering a bunch of questions. We want to make sure we can answer as much as we can, but we also recognize we've only got an hour. We've got a Discord Q&A chat after this on the official Wizards of the Coast Magic the Gathering Discord. If you find that, dig it up. We've included it on our socials. Head there, and you can start putting questions in now. And then as soon as we're done with this stream, Billy and I are going to head up there, and some other members of the play team who have been around for quite a while are going to be. There's the Discord link.
Scott Larrabee and Mike Rosenberg, who were both integral.
I just realized they filmed this kind of dark.
We'll be
I don't know why they don't have better lighting in that room.
If we don't get your question on this stream, jump in there. But let's jump into it, because let's try to answer as many questions as we can. We're going to go through the system first. And then, as you can see down at the bottom, down, I'm further away when we're not on the virtual screen. There's the Q&A section where we will be taking questions from chat. If you have questions that you want to ask, go ahead and put them in chat. You can put them in chat now. We've got a team back sending me stuff on my phone, or you can wait till we get to that Q&A section. So, okay, let's start with an overview of the system. If you've already read the article this morning, this might be a bit of a refresher, but tell us about the Pro Play system as a whole.
Yeah, this was good stuff, honestly.
Okay, so this is the graphic that really sums up the system. The goal is simple. You do well at one level, and you move up to the next level. The bottom, the regional championship qualifiers, those will primarily take place at your local store. From there, you go to the regional championship. You play against the best players in your region. You have a chance to win a spot at the Pro Tour. And from there, you do well, you can go to the World Championship and eventually become world champion.
All right. So let's start by focusing on.
I said that, just like, and then eventually become world champion.
Return of the Pro Tour. Everyone's really
a lot more difficult than it sounds.
Let's talk about what that looks like. So first of all, let's talk about how you get invited to the Pro Tour. If we can put that criteria up on the screen.
So here's the invitation criteria. I'll note that we haven't had a Pro Tour in a very long time. So a lot of criteria, you can see it here. A lot of it is slightly more generous for the first season as a means to seed the Pro Tour. For instance, the regional championships are going to award 102 qualifications per round. However, there's 64 extra qualifications in every round for the entirety of the first season.
Okay.
This is meant because we didn't have Pro Tours to look back at without going, to 2000 whatever, 17 or something.
Yeah.
And so we're starting fresh here. You'll see, for example.
Yeah, and that's a good move. And it's a cool chance for a lot of people to get their first shot at the Pro Tour. So I don't mind that.
6 or better. But at the first couple, you can go from one to the next with only a 9 and 7 or better record. And this will help seed our system and get things going while shooting for a target Pro Tour size of about 300.
Okay. And so those extra invites, most of the time, wherever those invites are listed, those are called out as extra invites so people can kind of get an idea of the scope.
Yeah, they
of the
should
system.
be listed as bonus invites or 2022, 2023 bonus invites, something like that.
Okay, makes sense. Now there is another way to qualify from one Pro Tour to the next called adjusted match points.
Yep.
Can you take us through that system a little bit?
This I like
okay,
a lot
so adjusted
too.
match points are somewhat simple, but still probably one of the more complicated things about the system, just because it's hard to track, from tournament to tournament. But the gist of it is, all your match points you get after your first 3 wins are your total for that event. You can never be negative, so if you go 0-5 drop, it's just 0. It's not -9 or something. So if you go, let's say you go 8 and 8. 8 wins, minus 3 is 5, 15 match points. That's your adjusted match points. So adjusted match points total of 39 or more from the previous 3 Pro Tours qualify you for the next one. This is an important break point. If I go to a Pro Tour and I go 10 and 6, that gives me 21 adjusted match points. Then I go to the next Pro Tour and I go 9 and 7, that gives me 18. That's 39. That's going to qualify me for the next Pro Tour. I go there and I do badly, then my last 3 Pro Tours, still 39. So I'm going to be qualified for the next Pro Tour. So really, a 10 and 6 in one Pro Tour, a 9 and 7 in the next one is qualifying you for 2 more. So if you go 10 and 6 and then do poorly, it's a bit harder to get back to the third one, but if you do, you still got another shot to get a 9 and 7 and qualify for one more tournament. I'd also like to point out, top 8 grants an additional 12 adjusted match points. 12 and 4 at the Pro Tour gives you.
I also like that too, because if you make a top 8,
the bonus 12s put you at the bonus 12 will put you at 39.
it's going to make it easier for you to stay on the Pro
3
Tour,
more Pro Tours of qualification.
which is pretty
What
awesome.
was the goal with creating adjusted match points?
People want to be able to sort of get to the Pro Tour, stay there if they're doing really well. It's also good, somebody wins the Pro Tour, you want to see and feature and focus on those players for a period of time. So the goal is to create a system that sort of people can cobble together an invite or reward consistent finishes, both. And we think adjusted match points do that pretty well. Just for a point of clarity, the reason the first 3 wins don't count is we didn't want to force people who are like 0 and 5 to keep playing, because I might need these adjusted match points later. If you're not going to make day 2, you can call it a day.
Okay. All right.
Hadn't thought about that. That's actually
the Pro
a pretty
Tour,
good
and obviously
reason.
That's the headline. But the system was designed for a broad audience, and a lot more players are going to engage with the qualifier level. So let's spend a little time talking about that. So tell us what the experience is going to be like for the regional championship qualifiers.
So the regional championship qualifiers primarily, again, will be at your local store. I want to point out that local stores got this news today too. So people who are sort of rushing to the internet to figure out when the first qualifier is, they don't know yet, give them a little time. They're going to be working with the regional organizers to get qualifier kits and then bring the tournaments to you. So, but regional championship qualifiers will primarily be at the local store. Most local stores have pretty vibrant communities. You probably know who you're likely to play against at these tournaments. You're going to likely go, and depending on the details of those tournaments in your region or provided by your organizer. You know, maybe the winner goes, or maybe the top 2 or whatever will go to the regional championship, and you'll get a chance there to compete against the best from your entire region.
Nick Carter,
so,
I would
yeah,
say
let's
if
talk
you just
about
want to know
those
when I go
regional
live, I
championships
would
a
say
little bit.
follow my socials, my
What do you
Discord, my
expect those
Twitter, and I'll
events
let
to
everybody know
be
whenever
like?
I
I know
do go
there's
live.
regional variation because different
Sure.
tournament organizers do different things, but what's sort of the overall activity?
Mostly because I'm live on
So
all the
we're
major
expecting
platforms.
the regional championship tournament itself to take place over 1 or
Not
2
at the
days,
same time.
depending on size. But we expect the experience pretty much everywhere to be about 3 days long, have last chance qualifiers into the regional championship, casual offerings like potentially a command zone, side events, and things like that. So really a really enjoyable Magic experience in addition to a pretty cool competitive tournament.
Okay, so they want the regional
We
championships
talked
to
about the
kind
Pro
of be
Tour,
like
obviously, a
Grand
little bit
Prix that you
already.
qualify into.
That's the next step. What about the World Championship?
So the World Championship is going to be a bit of a deviation from how it's been from the past several years. It's going to be a bit of a bigger tournament, though not quite as big in terms of people as a Pro Tour. We're shooting for about 128 competitors, but this isn't that precise. Maybe we'll have 118 or 138. It's not like when there's 16, you know there's going to be 16, right?
Yeah.
So this is going to be played on tabletop with $1 million prize pool. You can see some of the invitation criteria there. The top 4 from the last World Championship of our current system are going to get invited.
Coming up later this year.
Right, coming up later this year. Everybody who goes 12-4 or better at a Pro Tour. There'll be some digital pathways with information still forthcoming.
Yeah, thanks so much, Nick.
And 32 people, the 32 people at the top of the adjusted match point standings at the end of the season who were previously uninvited, and everybody tied with 32nd. So that's where we get a little bit of variance in the attendance. The finalists from the USA, EMEA, and the JP Regional Championships every round, as well as the winner from each other regional championship per round. However, I will say there's going to end up being 2 Canadians qualifying every round because Canada is splitting their regional championship into like an East and a West 2 tournaments. So that ends up with about 45 people out of the 128 coming directly from the regional championship level.
Okay.
Cool.
Very cool. All right, so that's the quick and dirty version of the system overview.
Yeah, I'm
Let's
not
jump
really
into some
upset with
details.
anything
We've
yet.
been following a lot of people's questions and conversations online all day. So we're going to start off with some of the bigger questions that we've seen online, and then we're going to jump into the chat Q&A. So one of the biggest questions or biggest complaints has been that this system specifically doesn't have Grand Prix in it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we sort of feel like the 2 main attractions to a Grand Prix are a competitive tournament and getting together with a bunch of Magic players who love to play Magic or have Magic-related experiences. We expect the regional championship to be a very competitive tournament. We expect that to also fill some of the role of getting people together to celebrate Magic. And we also see a lot of other events popping up. Legacy is running a monthly event in Europe. There's, you know, the NRG series announced they're working with DreamHack to provide invitations to the regional championship. SCG Con has been running strong, and we expect these things.
Sorry about that,
to
guys. I don't know what was
continue
going on
to
there.
Both pop up, expand, and partner with our regional organizers to provide pathways. So we think that the types of experiences people are really looking for when they say Grand Prix exist and will continue to exist, but the Grand Prix branding, at least for the time being, will not.
Great. We've also seen a lot of questions around the Hall of Fame. We've returned a little bit of the Hall of Fame benefit here. And so now, naturally, there are questions about when is Hall of Fame voting returning? When are we, going to start putting people back in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, so this is something that's actually very important to me as a member of the Hall of Fame myself. I actually care deeply about the history of the game and the Hall of Fame. So while I don't really have anything concrete to say today in terms of dates or timelines, we care and it's being worked on.
Okay. Another common
Yeah,
type
Weiss,
of
I think
question,
they
I'm
were
gonna
always going to. I
paraphrase
just
a
think
few of
COVID
these
really
here,
just
but,
kind of
how
put
many local
a halt on
qualifiers
things that
will
they
there
could
be?
do
Where will my local qualifiers
confidently.
be? When will my local qualifiers be? That sort of deal.
Sure, I sort of touched on this before. Local stores found out today, the same time as everybody else, about this system. I've had some updates. I know that stores are reaching out to regional organizers. The first qualifying season starts on July 2nd. Now that doesn't mean every store is going to run their qualifier on the first day, but July 2nd is when the season 1 qualifiers start. So that's the earliest you're going to see a qualifier to store. But in general, for questions that pertain to the regional championship qualifier and the regional championship level, I would suggest
Hey,
going
thanks
to
for the follows
announcement
and stuff,
and
y'all.
finding the website of
appreciated.
your regional organizer and checking in there frequently for questions and updates.
Okay. And now, this is a big one. Coverage. What are we doing for
Yep,
coverage?
that's the question
Got it.
everybody wanted.
So we are covering the World Championship. We are covering all the Pro Tours. And we don't have sort of anything firm to commit to in terms of the regional championship level, but it's in discussion.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
Good.
And next question, and this is the last question we have planned before getting to chat Q&As. So I'm going to jump into chat Q&As right after this one. You kind of touched on this before, and the announcement sort of touched on it, but didn't go into details. So when are we going to get the details for the digital Premier Play Pass?
Those are coming in late April.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Now, chat questions. Oh boy, we have a lot of them.
Yeah, no surprise, dude.
Let's try. Okay. Well, there was a question of will there be coverage of regional championships? I told you that was
Now,
a big
Paper
one.
Magic makes too much money for them to not give it attention, honestly. Paper Magic's still way more than double
You've done a
what
great
Arena
job
is at
answering
the
these
moment.
questions so far. Here's a question. Does Worlds give adjusted match points?
Does the World Championship give adjusted match points? Nope. The only tournaments that give adjusted match points are Pro Tours.
Okay. How many regional tournaments a year will there be?
What is a regional tournament? Regional championships?
Let's go with regional championship. Yeah.
Okay, there is one regional championship per round per Pro Tour, with the exception of Canada that split theirs into two.
Yep. Okay. Do the regional championship qualifiers have to be held at a WPN store, or is any LGS eligible?
I'm actually not sure. I think for an answer to that question, the interested party should reach out to their
I think somebody got their
regional
question
tournament
confused. I
organizer.
think they were asking for Premier stores, not realizing that anybody who
We answered
works with
that.
Wizards as a retail store is a WPN store. So yeah, I think that's whoever asked the question. I don't think understands the terminology.
How do F&M and non-regional championship qualifier play, so play that is not a regional championship qualifier, store championships, that sort of thing, how do they work in the system, or is that completely separate?
Those, to be specific, those events nor anything that currently exists other than what we've detailed today, like feed into the system. FNM, store champs are independent systems that are quite engaging and fun, but they don't feed into the Premier Play system.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
How often will there be regional championship tournaments? Every quarter, every month, every...
Yeah, fair question. There's 3 Pro Tours a season, and each one will have a corresponding regional championship tournament.
Okay, so roughly every third of a year.
Roughly, yeah, but because of the World Championships, it might be more like every... Look, the schedule's not up, I just want to say, so don't, but because we have a World Championship to run too, they might be slightly closer together for a little bit. And
Yeah,
then a
it's
little bit
fine.
farther
I mean,
apart
I don't know
while
why
the World
pass.
Championship
There's
runs.
3 Pro Tours and a World Championship.
How about
Assume
this?
each
Do I
season's going to be
have to
like 3.5
play
months or
in the
something.
regional championship, if I'm qualified for a regional championship, do I have to play in the one where I live?
Tricky question, so let me go into a little bit of detail.
Yep.
If you go to a store and you win a slot at the regional championship, you win a slot in the regional championship of the region where that store is.
Right.
If you win, if you get a slot from something else, like the Hall of Fame or digital, then you're awarded a slot in the regional championship of your residence.
Okay.
So
Oh, interesting.
again, if you win a slot at a store, it's the region where your store is, and if you get awarded a slot, it's the region of your residence.
That's interesting. So if I'm on vacation and I play in a qualifier event, I have to come back to play in
along those
a
same lines,
event,
can
the
I
regional
qualify
championship
for
in that
and
place.
play in regional championships of multiple regions?
You may only play in one regional championship per round.
Okay.
You can qualify for multiple. It is possible. Like if you're near a border, you could qualify for, let's say, Canada and the United States, but then you have to pick.
Okay. All right. Will draft be supported?
Draft will be supported at the Pro Tour. The Pro Tour will be going back to sort of the old structure of a draft and 5-round.
Yeah, I think we're all looking
rounds
forward to playing
constructed
more
a day.
events.
Also, at the regional championship qualifier level, limited is a valid option to run the qualifiers, which could be sealed with the draft top 8. In the short term, there won't be draft at the regional championship level.
Okay. Now, we might as well just talk about formats generally. So the
Sure.
first round of regional championships, we've already said are Pioneer.
Yep.
What is your, what formats at each of the levels are
Sure.
kind of you all looking at?
Yeah, all
So
of this
the regional
seems to make
championship
sense. I'm with you,
qualifiers,
Nick. I mean,
stores
so far,
can
there's really been
choose
nothing to be
between
super upset about.
Standard, Modern, and Pioneer. The first round of regional championships, as you said, will be Pioneer. The first Pro Tour is going to be Pioneer and Draft, and the World Championship TBD.
Okay. This is another common question that we've seen forever. Does a Pro Tour invite mean a free flight to the tournament?
The Pro Tour invite does not mean a free flight to the tournament. There's no invisible money. Prize pool is the prize pool, and you know.
Okay.
I will say though, when you earn a slot to the Pro Tour at the regional championship, it should come with some prize.
Yeah.
I can't promise that's always going to be enough to get to the Pro Tour, but you should get something.
Yeah.
Also, the Pro Tour is going to pay everybody who attends.
Okay.
So it's on both sides. You should be getting something.
Okay. So it may
Fair.
not be the flight, but there's
Right.
money there.
Right.
That, yeah. And in the past, when those free flights were awarded, they often came with no prize in some
Right.
instances. So it's just money in a different spot. Okay. Next question: will the culmination of competitive organized play, in this case the World Championship, so tabletop, digital, culmination of all of that, will it be performed in paper?
Yes.
Okay. Sean, I'm getting that we've lost audio.
No, audio's good.
Did I mess up?
Oh, never mind. Audio's fine.
Get 'em out.
Yeah.
Great. We're being very responsive, chat. Okay, next up. For players who are primarily interested in a specific format, for example, limited, is Wizards making an effort to ensure diversity of qualifier formats within regions? So how are we working with the regional
No, I think that's going to be by
on format?
Or-
We're
Stores.
not dictating what a regional organizer tells local stores to do about their qualifier formats. That's up to the regional organizers and the stores.
Okay.
Other than the 4 formats that are allowed.
I feel okay
People
with that.
can
I
make
think
up
most
formats for
stores
their
know
qualifiers.
what does best for their communities as far as
I think
what
that
their
answers this
players want to
question.
play. So I think it's going to be
There was another
fine.
question I saw earlier about, I forget exactly how it was phrased, but will local qualifiers, will you sign up using your Wizards account? Will there be a DCI number? How does that work? If you want to sign up for an event, what do you need to use to sign up?
I think you'll be using your Wizards account, maybe the companion app through Event Link at your local store. Yeah.
Okay. From Perks Alert, where is the World Championship going to be this season, and when will we get formats for the new Capenna Set Championship?
This announcement and Q&A is about the system that's coming, and this stuff, while important, is outside the scope of the announcement.
But soon.
I guess the SNC isn't outside the scope, but I don't have an answer for you anyway.
Yeah. Soon.
Soon is the answer.
Soon trademark. Let's see. Let's see what else we've got.
I like how you preface it.
Herein lies the truth. I've run a store, and
try
I
to
would
give
tell
you
you
the
that's
ones
a
where you-
terrible
where you
thing.
know
I
who the
would never
person
even
is.
say that
I
publicly,
thought it was funny.
All right, let's see. What is
even as a
up
joke.
next? A lot of questions about formats. Um, you're going to give the kind of canned answer to this one, but are there any plans to have more than one regional championship in North America per Pro Tour? Yeah.
If you're interested in plans for North American Regional Championships, you should look at DreamHack site and talk to DreamHack.
Yep. I'll ask this question, but is there a loophole that will allow Billy Jensen to play on camera again?
I don't want to comment on that at this time.
No, there will not be. All right. Is there a way to string together regional championship qualifications? So we talked about AMP for the Pro Tour, or do you have to requalify each time?
Well, one of the invitation criteria for qualifying for the regional championship is being qualified for the Pro Tour, which it feeds.
Okay.
So if you go to the first Pro Tour of this new system and make top 8, let's say, and you're qualified for the second and third, you're also qualified for the second and third regional championship.
Okay.
But there's no way to string, like, you can't just go from regional, well, again, this I guess could happen, but none of the systems I've seen currently allow you to string invites from regional championship to regional championship without touching the Pro Tour.
Okay. So there is, if a regional organizer wanted to, they could award those kind of invites.
I suppose, but I don't think there's any plans for that.
Okay. All right. From Ehrlich MTG, another one you know. Can players already qualified for regional championships play in qualifiers for that regional championship? It's a two-part question, so we'll start with that.
You need to check with your regional tournament organizer.
Okay. Can players already qualified for the Pro Tour play in the regional championship feeding that Pro Tour?
Yes, in fact, especially given that the regional championship qualifies directly to the World Championship.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In fact, qualifying for the Pro Tour, like I just said in the previous answer, qualifies you for that regional championship.
And that's, you said this to me earlier, that's because we really want the regional championship to feel like a special achievement, correct?
Yeah, both be a special achievement and also we certainly don't want somebody who wins the first Pro Tour to just not be able to play anything but 3 more
Yeah, that
tournaments
always
for the rest
sucked.
of the
Whenever
year.
you had a higher ranking or were already qualified and couldn't participate in events, that was pretty rough.
Can you defer an invite to a Pro Tour if you cannot make it to the one you qualified for?
I guess it would depend on circumstance.
Email us.
Yeah.
Yep, if you're qualified, you can contact us, and I think Scott said it. And actually, you know what? That's a great question for the Discord, because Scott is the one who manages that. Jumping up. I think we just answered that one. Is the United States counted as one region, or are there multiple regions? So it's a question that's about all the different areas of the United States. Why don't you just talk generally, because I feel like we're going to get this question from a lot of different regions. How were the regions looked at and selected and determined?
Primarily, the regions were decided by a combination of us and our international teams. That made sense for a lot of reasons. And then their sort of, what's the word, invites and things like that are distributed basically based on the number of players those regions service.
Yeah. Okay. So not like the population of that region, but like more like the magic
population, yeah.
Great. Interesting question. Is there a plan for high-level team events?
No plan for it right now.
Okay. I see another question about deferrals. I would again save the deferral questions for the Discord Q&A, because that's one of those sort of nuanced policy things that varies here and there, and Scott is pretty well versed in that sort of thing.
I mean, so far they've been pretty good and pretty quick on their answers. Like this has been pretty,
Right, so within
pretty
the
nice
system,
and informative.
Can you attend any tournament that qualifies for a tournament you're already qualified for, which I think you've answered. But here's the part that we haven't touched on. If so, do the invites pass down?
At a regional championship,
Mm-hmm.
if you're playing while you're already qualified for another tournament,
Mm-hmm.
be it the World Championship or the Pro Tour, and you would earn another invitation to that tournament,
Mm-hmm.
that passes down.
Okay.
Anything other than that, you need to check with your regional tournament organizer.
Okay. Next question. I'm going to take this one because it's more of a communication question. Will there be a good site with condensed information so new players have a chance to realize what is needed to get to the Pro Tour? Maybe. I may be biased, but I'm going to say magic.gg. And it's meant to be that central hub.
Be honest, I thought today's announcement was pretty easy to
that's what that's
understand.
for.
I mean, it even had the little
I
pyramid,
hope that
right?
we were able to get all of the information in one place that is accessible.
Like, I'm not sure
to
which
people.
more you would need. Like, go to your
We're
store,
always looking for feedback.
try to win a qualifier, and then the rest takes care of itself.
All right, next question. What is the lowest ranked tournament that anyone can attend? So let's kind of flip that question a little bit. Which tournaments are meant to be open tournaments that anyone can attend that you do not have to qualify for?
The lowest tiered, well, the tournament that I would recommend starting out at, if you're interested in engaging with this system, would be regional championship qualifiers at your local store. From there, if you do well, you can go to your regional championship. Do well there, you go to the Pro Tour. Do well there, you go to the World Championship.
Yep. From Jim Davis, MTG, how will this year's set championships factor into qualifying for the coming Pro Tours?
The only thing that matters from this year was on the qualification slide, which is 9 and 6 at the SNC champs, qualifies for the first Pro Tour in this system, as well as everybody who makes the top 4 of the World Championship will be invited to all 4 Pro Tours.
All 3 Pro Tours.
All 3, yeah. Maybe someday. All 3 Pro Tours. Yeah.
Okay. And there are, if you're interested in hitting that qualification path, there are still ways out there to qualify for the SNC Championship. Qualification for the SNC Championship is not quite closed. It's coming to an end, but not quite there. What is the best place for a casual viewer to get caught up on current tournament standings, adjusted match points, etc.? Again, that will be magic.gg once adjusted match points are up and running. We'll
that makes sense.
There. Then there are a couple questions asking for clarification on what season means. What is a season when we talk about a season?
So a season would be the World Championship, the 3 Pro Tours that lead up to it, and the regional championship and regional championship qualifiers that lead up to those Pro Tours.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, of course, that's what it is. People are asking some simple,
but will the Pro Tours be done near set releases?
seemingly obvious questions.
Yeah, the Pro Tours aren't on the calendar yet, so I can't really give you a good answer other than wait and see.
They're also all in 2023, and we haven't announced the dates for the sets either. So
Right.
yeah. All right, I think I'm being told that we have hit most of the big questions. So
I do think we missed something on,
Yeah.
for what it's worth, on the Pro Tour invite policy. It wasn't listed, and as I was going through what happens, everybody who competes in this year's World Championship is going to PT1.
okay,
I think
I caught you pausing on that, and I thought the same thing. Yeah, I
that got
think it
left off
wasn't
the
on slide.
graphic,
Yeah.
but that is another way to get from the current system into the first Pro Tour of next year.
Okay, so everyone who's at the
All
World
32
Championship,
players from this year's World Championship
first PT1
will go to PT1.
Okay.
Okay, that's cool.
Last question, and then I think Billy and I are going to head to the Discord Q&A. Can you qualify to a regional championship through Arena? The answer to that is wait and see.
Yeah, the answer is yes, but wait and see how.
Yeah, figured as much.
All right, so that is what we've got for right now. Thank you, Billy, for walking us through all of that. We are immediately, like I said, going to head over to Discord to answer further questions, some of the more detailed ones that we couldn't really dive into on this stream, some of the things that involve policy, minutia, that sort of thing. or just broad questions. You know what? Come to Discord, hang out, chat. Billy's going to be there. Scott Larrabee's going to be there. Mike Rosenberg's going to be there. There's the Discord link at the bottom if you haven't already checked out the official Magic Discord. Next week, we're going to be a little bit early because it is Streets of New Capenna debut day. So weekly MTG will be coming on in the morning immediately after the debut stream. We'll be previewing stuff. We'll be talking story. We'll be talking mechanics. We'll be talking all the things. So please join us then. Thank you, Billy, for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. That was quick and simple. Where does that leave us? How do I feel about that? I honestly thought most of it was pretty good. I have some notes I'll cover in a quick little video, kind of like a recap for everybody. But I didn't have was there something that didn't get answered that y'all think was missed? I'm kind of curious because it felt like for the most part, everything was pretty clear. I think there was some people asked some very basic, what does a season mean? Obviously a season was going to be basically the time between pro tours, right? That was kind of understood. I didn't think that was a problem. So, same thing with people saying well, how can we have a simpler announcement so people know how to qualify? And today's announcement I think that's about as simple as it could be. I mean, you could literally just have that pyramid in your store to show people hey, if you win this event, then you can go play in regionals and then maybe the pro tour or whatever, right? To me, that seems very simple. I don't think it's that big a deal, but apparently they need to come up with something else that people understand it. I don't really know. But yeah, outside of that, I took a few notes here, but nothing really was out of the ordinary. A lot of this just seemed kind of like the things you would expect to have in an announcement follow-up. I think what they did for themselves that was a positive was this initial announcement that they put out this morning was actually really good. It answered a lot of questions. It was worded very clearly. It even had examples and explained some stuff. I thought that was really good. Some of the questions seemed unnecessary. It all seemed pretty clear. Yeah, and Nick, that's kind of the thing, right? And I can tell you this from doing a lot of work with the public, running a business, whatever. No matter how simple you put things, there are always people that just don't get it. They just, and I don't mean that insulting. There's just some people that won't comprehend things for whatever reason. Hell, I told the story before on the channel, but I had a customer that came in once a week and I was running a convention and I told him hey, you probably want to come to the convention to get this thing you're looking for. This dealer's going to be there, whatever. Literally told him for 6 weeks straight. It's going to be on this date. You probably want to come in, whatever. The dude comes in the Monday after the event and is yeah, when did you say that convention was going to be again? And I'm dude, it was last weekend. And he's man, I don't know how I didn't know that was coming. And I'm I don't know. So some people you read, see, hear, whatever you want to hear. Some people just don't. It's just one of those things. And the sad thing is, and this is going to sound really harsh, but the people who don't comprehend the stuff they announced today probably are not people that are ever going to qualify high in the season or in the system. And again, not because they're stupid or whatever, but if their comprehension doesn't fit that, it's probably not going to fit the competitive level mindset for that. They're probably just geared for something else. Not saying you need to ignore those people, but that's also just kind of the reality of it. But you know what? I put out a video with their announcement from Arena or whatever. It was negative. I have to be honest. Today, I think Wizards got it right. There was some stuff that they're still working on and they don't have all the details, and that's fine. But for everything they did have, they told us quite a lot. They made everything very simple. They even said hey, if you own a store, you're going to work with your regional organizers or whatever to help get your kits and all that stuff. So everything felt pretty clear. This is what I told people. As long as I was fine not having I didn't enjoy it obviously, but I was fine not having organized play for at least paper play for the last 2 years. I get it. COVID and different regional local restrictions, all that stuff, I totally understand, right? But I said it's worth it if we got announcements like we got today. Because we talked about it on our podcast, which, by the way, look it up wherever you download your podcast, Color of Magic. We talk about all kinds of stuff. But one of the things we mentioned recently was that, this is one of the few times you get to, on any tournament system, to just start over clean, right? And the problem we had previously is there was a lot of iterations made, but there was always going to be people wanting to hold on to something from the last iteration, right? And you have to account for that moving into your new system. And even if maybe your system was only okay, you had to let it run for a couple years so you could kind of, what's the best word? Like, let the old stuff lapse. And then your new system only has to care for the last couple of years or whatever, right? And that was just like a constant. Whereas this is, hey, if we could start all over, what does this look like? And I think it's pretty good. I mean, it's got good prize money. It's got a clean system. It's got a full plan behind it. It's easy to understand. It's got a way for you to qualify and stay qualified. It makes room for the Hall of Famers. Like, I just don't have a lot to complain about. Anything I want to complain about is small or nitpicky. Seriously. Short Stack says, just came by. Anything big happened today? Nah, I don't think it was big as much as just clarifying. If you saw my video earlier, I kind of went over the announcement that they put out. I'll have a follow-up here probably this afternoon. But I wouldn't say we found out anything grandiose in this announcement. There was a lot of small updates and follow-ups, but it was literally going to be a follow-up stream. They weren't going to announce anything crazy. Nick said, I think it was a good explanation. That's why I avoided saying the questions were stupid. Yeah, people definitely differ. Yeah, and I'm with you. I think the explanations were solid. I don't think they danced around anything. I think Blake and Huey both were very open. We're like, hey, this is coming, or hey, this is just not going to be a thing, or hey, this is a thing, but we'll announce details in like a month. Good with that. Like, it was very easy to understand, like, what was in the works, what wasn't, what we could look forward to, what we couldn't. And I like that. Because I always tell people, even if me as a consumer, as a player, whatever, of any game, even if I don't like the answer, I'd rather just know that it's not a thing, right? So I'm not holding out hope for a thing that's just never going to come. I hate and I'm not saying Wizards, but I'm saying like companies in general. I hate the like, well, we're working on a thing and like we'll take that into consideration and blah blah. Even though there's never gonna it's never gonna come. You know what I mean? I'd rather just say, yeah, we thought about it and realized that's not something we want in the current system. Cool, awesome. We don't have to worry about it. Like right now, the idea of like, they're still talking about Grand Prix, but they're probably not coming back anytime soon. Cool, but what they've done is they've basically said, hey, but we want the regionals to be like Grand Prix. So it's like you still get that Grand Prix experience at a regional type event. And the organizers can run other events. So like, I'm cool with that, right? It's not a Grand Prix system, which I think would be awesome. But it's still like, okay, we know we can't do Grand Prix right now. We're leaving these up to the regional organizers. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest benefits, I think, of Wizards using regional organizers for these is that we're still, like, don't make this political, but like we're still not completely out of COVID, right? We don't know what that's going to look like everywhere in the world over the next 6, 9, 12 months. Who knows? There could be spikes in things, and each country and whatever treats stuff differently. It's a lot easier to have an organizer within that area that knows the people, has the deals with the convention centers, knows local politicians, whatever it is, right, is going to be better prepared to make adjustments if needed than Wizards would be having to make all those phone calls and find all the venues and whatever. Because I can tell you right now, from even me running events, like I could call right now a bunch of venues between like Central and North Texas into Oklahoma and Arkansas or whatever, and I could probably have a venue for an event before the end of tomorrow. Probably have a contract in the mail or signed or whatever before the end of Monday. Wizards probably couldn't necessarily do that as easily, like, because they just don't have those relationships yet. Not saying they couldn't have the conversation and eventually get a thing, but it's just going to be more work for somebody to have to like, okay, well, call me back, do this thing, play phone tag, explain what type of event it is you do, how much space you need, whatever. Whereas people who already do that in those areas and already talked with those places already have all that down, right? It just becomes an easier conversation, especially if it's like, oh, well, let's use US as an example because I don't know other places. But let's say DreamHack has an event scheduled for Atlanta and there's an outbreak in Atlanta or whatever, and they have to move their event. DreamHack already knows, oh yeah, we've done stuff in Dallas. We've done stuff in Anaheim, whatever. Cool. Let's call there. Let's call around to the venues. Let's talk to the agents that we know or whatever. Boom. We got space. Easy to pivot, go do a thing. They already know how big the space is. They already know how to use it. They've got layouts for it. You know, they know, hell, and stuff that you need to know about those venues, like how you can set up the room because you need different outlets or what the internet connection's like or whatever. Like all that, they already know, right? Because they run these events for a living for other stuff. So that's going to make those types of shifts, if need be, important and really beneficial. Now, is that necessary in the future? Let's say we get a full year from now and we are as clear as we're going to be of COVID or whatever, and that's not an issue, then maybe we don't need regional organizers at that point. Who knows? But I like the idea of it so far. I really do. So yeah. I'm telling y'all, like I looked over this announcement. I don't have a lot to complain. I seriously feel like anything I'm going to complain about is going to be somewhat nitpicky. I mean, being honest, it's going to be somewhat nitpicky. I mean, the only people I've seen is like, Wizards is going to find a way to screw this up and blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, based on what? Right? Like, this basically is like the old system, just without the Pro Players Club and without the plane flight per qualification. But they did say your regional qualifiers should have some amount of prize money. And everybody who qualifies for the Pro Tour will get money. That is something Huey did say. So the idea is you should be getting some amount of money at your regional qualifier and then getting some prize money for being. Now imagine the bottom is probably going to be $300 to $500 or whatever, but still that covers like hotel for the weekend, you know, depending on where you're at. So that's something, or it covers your flight if you're not that far. So you get that and you get your prize money. So that combined should be reasonable for getting most people to the Pro Tour. I don't think that's unreasonable. Now, don't get me wrong. I get it. When you're from a poorer country and Wizards was like, hey, we will pay for your plane flight and whatever, like that is a big deal. So I'm not saying it's not nothing. But the fact that they're saying, okay, we're going to encourage all of the regional organizers to have some cash prize as part of those, I'm assuming top 8 or whatever, but at least for the winner. And then when you get to the Pro Tour, we are going to give you more money. That should make it a little bit better. So I'm hoping that still works for most players. Now, there will probably also be the deal of like, if the Pro Tour happens to be in a country you can't get to easily or whatever, maybe you don't play that qualifier season or whatever, but they did say they're at least going to be hearing out deferrals. So if you're qualified and there's some hardship or something you can't get, or reason you can't get there, they will probably make that adjustment, but you have to contact them or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, Wizards has done a good job with this, y'all. I mean, don't be wrong. I'll complain. Like, one of the things we say on our podcast all the time is we will hammer something if it's screwed up, but we also need to praise the things that are good. So we encourage the behavior that we want. Like, it's very easy to go around complaining about everything, but at the end of the day, it's like we also have to raise up those things that are positive to encourage the people around us, the businesses, whatever, to do more of those things that we like. And in this case, I think Wizards of the Coast got it right. I mean, seriously, look around there. When was the last time you saw this many Magic players positive about something all at the same time? I mean, seriously. Like, I mean, we had like the Kamigawa release and everybody was good with it. And that was it. This is like the second. Wizards has 2 times in the last 3 months. Right? Like, they've hit big on 2 things that everybody seemed to be positive about. So, yeah, I got nothing. I really don't have a complaint here. I think this is solid. So, yeah, good stuff all around. I think that's it, y'all. I'm going to do a wrap-up video and kind of share the details of what we took away from this. And yeah, I think that's it. I'm sitting here thinking, like, is there anything else to break down, anything else to complain about? But there's really not. I think they covered everything the way they needed to today. So, thumbs up. Maybe they're learning from things. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, maybe they let Huey and Blake be in charge of the PR stuff or whatever, putting the announcements together. I have no clue. But whatever the case may be, this is kind of a really good sign. I think if this is what we can look forward to around this event, and they already have plans for stuff, I'm in. I think this is what we want, ultimately. So yeah, I don't have any complaints here. I think this is very solid. But all right, y'all, I think this is where I'm going to check out. As always, wherever you're watching, whenever you're watching, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Please take care of yourself and your family or whatever with all the junk out in the world. And please remember to be awesome and be awesome to each other.